Hello, so we've reached day 2 of our campaign for better digital DJing and our second commandment. And our second commandment is respect the history of DJing. It's very easy as a digital DJ with your flashy new gear to think that this is where it all starts. You know, everything that came before is passé, it's old hat, and there's nothing to learn from it, and that those guys are stuck in their ways, and you know, this is what's happening right now. But that's not the case, and you are missing out on a lot by not understanding and respecting and learning from what's come before you. If you don't do that, you can't be as good as those guys, and you're never going to be any better because you're not building on what's happened in the past. The first thing I'd like to say is that you can always learn from scenes that aren't your scene. So if you're into electro, doesn't mean that you can only learn from other DJs who are playing electro. You know, you can learn from the old funk guys, hip hop, the pop, the disco scene. You can always learn from scenes that are around you, so don't close yourself off to people who are doing something different to you. There's always skills that you can transfer, and as a smart digital DJ you should be able to watch DJs in any scenes using any kind of equipment and pick up tricks and tips and think, hey, you know what, I could do that with my music. Everything's interrelated, there's nothing that's in a bucket on its own. So I would say the first thing in respecting the history of DJing is respect other DJs who do different things and have done different things in the past. It's an easy source of inspiration. The second thing I'd like to do is look at 2 or 3 simple examples of why the history of DJing can help you to be a better digital DJ. The first example is looping. Now, in the old days, back in the early 80s, when hip hop was starting hip hop and scratching styles were starting to be developed, people realised that the breakbeat, the 8-bar section, kind of 2/3 of the way through a funk record where there's no vocals and it's just the drummer has his little go, the breakbeat was actually a fantastic piece of music. Unfortunately, it only went on for 8 bars. So what DJs started doing was playing the breakbeat on one of their turntables, that 8-bar section, and then as it came to an end, having the same breakbeat on another identical copy of the same record on the other deck, starting it, flipping across, and continuing it for 16 bars, then running back to the first deck, rewinding to the beginning, flicking it across, continuing it for 24 bars, and so on and so on and so on. So out of a short section in 2 copies of the same record, they could lay down a really funky beat that went on for as long as they wanted. That's where breakbeat came from, that's where the breakbeat scene developed from, and a lot of early rave records simply had a breakbeat from an old funk record, and the Amen break is the classic one. Look up Amen break on Google and you'll see all the records that have been influenced by that. And they realised that they could create a rhythm that other stuff could be built on. Now, if you've ever wondered how to use the loop button on your controller, all you need to do is look into the history of how breakbeat developed and how hip-hop DJs used breaks from funk records to make something new to get a whole wealth of inspiration. Another example is the tempo controls. Now, Technics, CDJs, and now DJ controllers all have a tempo controller on them which alters the speed of the record. But back in the days before then, a lot of DJ equipment, whether it was people using old reel-to-reel tape players or even cassette tape, people have DJed with cassette tape, believe it or not, or just record decks that didn't have speed controls. Or, remember, our music now is all made for mixing. It's made electronically and it's made for mixing. Music wasn't always like that. So they were maybe mixing with decent equipment, but they were mixing music that couldn't easily be mixed. In all these situations, people didn't actually mix and they didn't actually use their tempo control to beat match everything. And that's the equivalent of a sync button, of course, on a DJ controller. They didn't use that, you know. They used other ways of getting from one record to another, whether it was just holding it and waiting for the right beat and throwing it in, cutting. And speaking of cutting, mixtapes used to be made by using a razor and literally splicing the tape, the reel-to-reel tape or the cassette tape, literally cutting it and sticking it back together where you wanted the music to join. So those techniques taught DJs to cut and to throw records in and to move swiftly from one to another. And sometimes that worked and sometimes it didn't. And the reason it worked or didn't was the choice of music and where they chose to cut. Now, the choice of music and where you choose to cut can be applied just as easily to digital DJing. So if you've ever found yourself there thinking the sync button's not working, and then thinking, what effect can I throw onto this track to get into that one without people noticing, and panicking that you can't do the mix right, well, you need to take a step back and look at how DJs have done it before you and realise that technology is not going to get you from record A to record B. You know, practice and musical knowledge is going to get you from record A to record B. And you can learn that a lot quicker by watching what people have done before. So there's another example. Maybe one more example about how previous DJs can teach us in the digital generation is a DJ would turn up with maybe 80 records, 120 records in a box. And he would play for 4 hours, 5 hours, you know? Carry on, carry on, everyone's loving it. Fine, you know, there's no DJ say, oh, I'm running out of records. They'd carry on playing. How did DJs do that? How did they have that box of 80 or 90 or 100 records and interact with the crowd and have fun and be clapping along and keeping everyone involved, every now and then pulling a new tune out and throwing it onto the deck? You know, were they sat there with their head in the box panicking? Well, sometimes, yeah, but were they sat there between every record just looking and looking and looking? Now compare that to DJs who you can see in any town. I'm sure you've watched someone do exactly the same thing, where they're sat there with their digital gear and their laptop and their screen, and all they're doing is staring at that screen, you know, sweating, looking like they're having no fun at all, looking through thousands and thousands of records, you know, looking more and more desperately for something to play next. There's a guy there with 5,000 records looking for something to play next, whereas a generation earlier there was a guy there with 100 records knowing what to play next. Now what's got lost along the way there? What can you learn as a digital DJ if that's a problem that you find yourself having from those guys from the past? It's another reason to respect people who've come before you and try and learn from what they did. It's all DJing. So I think I want to end with two things. The first thing is just a respect thing in both directions. If we as digital DJs want to be respected by people who came before us, if we want the vinyl guys and the CDJ guys to look at us and say, you know, they're carrying the torch, they're carrying the flag, we need to respect them back. It's another reason to show that respect, because we can't expect them to see any value in what we're doing if we don't equally see the value in the ground they've laid for us to build on, for the foundations they've given us. So that's one thing. And the second thing is our DJ gear didn't just appear. You know, the R&D people who invented this modern DJ gear, they didn't just kind of sit there in a white room brainstorming and come up with, hey, let's do it like this. They've copied exactly what the old DJ gear was like. And if we look at a modern controller, this is quite a simple controller, the Vestax VCI 300. This is a good example of how simple DJ controllers really are and how similar they are to the equipment that's come before. It's got two simple turntables, a very simple mixer, exactly the same controls on the mixer that you'd find on a normal club mixer, a nice big pitch fader so that you can pitch control so that you can get the speeds right, and even the sync button on this particular controller, all it does is match the BPMs between the two tracks. It doesn't actually put them into sync for you unless you do a keyboard shortcut. So a modern controller like this is based pretty much fully on a simple 2 record decks and mixer setup. In fact, I think the VCI 300 is one of the best controllers if you just want something that's very, very similar to two record decks and a mixer. That's one of the best controllers to use, to learn on for that reason. So understand and respect the fact that DJ controllers and DJ gear today, with all its tricks and all its bells and whistles, is fundamentally the same stuff that DJs have always used. And so we are missing a trick if we're not looking back and studying and learning from those people who've come before us. Now, in the resources to this video, there's some extra information, and there's pointers to a couple of really, really good books that have got, you know, first-hand experience from the past. That's, you know, a really good way of catching up, and a really good way if you're a young DJ now and you're not aware of what's happened in the past 10, 20, 30 years. A really good way of getting yourself up to speed and feeling confident about what you've got on your digital gear and why you're using it and the best way of using it. So I recommend you look at those resources, and thanks for watching, and see you in video number 3.